Good, good morning, everyone. Myself, Ashu Sharma, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering. Today, we will see Microsoft Azure and Aneka in cloud computing, unit number 5. So, let's start with Microsoft Azure. Microsoft Azure is a cloud computing service, and it is used to build and deploy and manage applications and service through a global network of Microsoft managed data centers. Data centers are geographically dispersed to provide availability and performance. So, as we see here, that Azure is used to build, deploy, and management of applications. So, whether it is web-based applications or enterprise-level applications, you may build, deploy, and manage them. So, configure all sorts of resources as per the applications, what sort of applications we are going to execute. So, Azure having that capability, and it is a cloud computing service which is of course there if you compare with rest of that services cloud computing having. So it is that data centers that geographically dispersed to provide availability and performance. Next is that Microsoft Azure is a set of cloud services, as I said, that to help your organization to meet your business challenges. So this optimize that cost of performing the business operations and to sort out the business challenges using such services. It is the freedom to build, manage, and deploy application on a massive global network. Because of nowadays, we can say it's a distributed network here and there. So many clients associate to join and to fulfill the expectation about these services. So it's a massive network and it is globally distributed. So having that freedom to build, manage, and deploy different applications on that particular network, and using favorite tools and frameworks also in this. Now we see some of these features of Azure. First is the on-demand provisioning. That provisioning is something that you are providing as a service or as a request to respond towards the client and consumer. So ask for what you need, when you need, and when to stop. So three W's: what, when, and when to, and where. This is very important in Azure as a service, that ask for what you need, when you need, and when to stop. So this is that one of the feature. Next is the scalability and elasticity that scales out or in, up or down, depends on the users or needs. When we say the peak times of working, so resources requirements or availability will be there up to 99.9% or 100%. But then it is not the peak time, so that decline towards 85 to 90% around. So scale out in down, up or down. That elasticity nature is also one that feature of Azure. Next is pay as you consume. So for a consumer point of view, I just want to pay that what facility I am utilizing. So this is the purpose of this feature, that paid as per your tire structure, paid as per your utility of different services. Next is abstract resources. So it focuses only on your needs and not on the hardware specs. So this is also that Azure, that whole focus is on the requirement and the expectation of the consumer, because whole market belongs to consumers. So all these clouds providing that services, having that approach, that focus, that concentrate on only what sort of needs all over. Next is the efficiency of experts, that they utilize the skills, knowledge, and resource of experts. This is also important. And next is the measurable. So every unit of users managed is measurable. So that measurement is also a key feature. What sort of resources, how many resources, what peak time it is going to be used. So all these measurements take place. Measurements of risk also. What sort of risk is that is going to be possible, so to resolve that one or to stop that one. So all sorts of that measurement and management tips and techniques, that is um, one of the feature of Azure. So this is set. These are the six in general that features we talk about this type of cloud services. Now Azure as a platform, if I just compare with this block diagram that this you can say that at the time of that server, there is SQL server with storage capability and various applications and service buses for the transportation purposes. Then there are the data centers which are geographically dispersed around the globe, and then access control services. So this whole diagram that include that what sort of that utilities and that it's a basic that diagram that represents that Azure platforms. Now these are the services that we talk about, the cloud computing services that Azure provides. So the first is that computability power. So it's very important. Then is the migration and security and compliances, storage, database, networking. This is that we can say, and the messaging is also, and management tools. So all sorts of these services are very, very important for consumer point of view as well. It optimize the cost because once I am going to take some service from some third party vendor, so I definitely go for cost, what sorts of services is going to be provided. So these are the different types of services that Azure cloud computing provides. Now next is that Aneka architecture. Here we have like at this bottom layer we have enterprise desktop grid, and then we have some data centers, clusters, and the cluster is something which is selective form of different nodes, and then the public cloud is there, and next is ECMA.NET, that framework generally used with operating system Windows, Linux, and Mac. So it's a cross-platform behavior when we talk about the infrastructure. Now the application service, if we talk about the middleware container, we have fabric services in which we have high availability or resource provisioning, hardware that's profiting, and membership. And the foundation level services are storage, resource reservation, billing and reporting, licensing and accounting. And application level services are distributed the threads and MapReduce, which is the SDFS concept, and we talk about bag of tasks and PSNs and some other modules. So this is basically for the persistence and the security purposes to apply once we deploy this Aneka architecture. And at the top layer, we have application development and management. So management tools, interfaces, and APIs, and software development kits, APIs, and tools. So this whole architecture is divided into three different parts. One is dedicated for the infrastructure, other is one for the application services, and then application development and management. Resource provisioning is here. So we have private cloud, we have public cloud. So some of these providers like GoGrid, Amazon Web Services, up there, and Rackspace. So these having that public clouds, and this is that we have dedicated that provisioning services to this node, and then there is that division, decomposition to physical desktop servers and virtual machines. So these are the physical desktop servers, and through hypervisors, we deploy these virtual machines on that dedicated server. So this is that part of the private network, private cloud to store that sensitive information for business processing and rest of that applications we deploy. So use case, this is one of the use case of resource provisioning under Aneka. We have a client, and that is the request is going to take place, and there is an Aneka framework that is going to be deployed on this dedicated server. And then we have dedicated desktops and private data centers, which is nothing but a cluster of different nodes and different servers. And here we have desktops which are dedicated because that capacity 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 dedicated desktops are there, and here is 12 virtual machines that we deployed on private data centers, so which is geographically at far away distance from that client position. Now here is the provisioning services, and this is the vendor. This is Amazon Web Services. So it is there to provide that resource provisioning services through this Aneka framework. Now, some of the characteristics we talk about the hybrid clouds. It is the support for heterogeneity. So it integrates additional cloud service providers, IaaS, and without major changes to the entire system. It supports for that dynamic and open systems and plugging new components and rapidly integrating new features. There is a basic VM virtual machine operation that management takes place. So software frameworks that support hypervisor-based execution should implement a minimum set of operations. Next is support for flexible scheduling policies and support for workload monitoring, in which we have to check that to release a subset of resources and dismiss the resources if they are not longer necessary. That it depends on the elasticity nature, what sort of resources, how many resources are going to be utilized and how many resources are going to be free. So that is that sort of approach over there, and support for flexible scheduling policies. So if certain changes happen, upgradation in the software purposes or it's in the services, so it should move towards that system also, so that it is flexible scheduling policies in making that management. So this is the Aneka-based hybrid cloud architecture. Hybrid is something in which we just combine that public and private cloud approach. So we have some scheduling services. Then these are the cloud service provider. Then resource provisioning services like storage, network bandwidth, all sorts of computability power. And these are that dedicated those Gen servers and Amazon EC2 and GoGrid. So these are the vendors. We can say that it is for the purpose of providing that hybrid cloud architecture for the cloud computing services. So this is that we have once we talk about this concept. And in this session, we saw how this Aneka and this Azure works and what sort of basic components require when we talk about that architecture mechanism and all sort of possible that pros and cons with sets of architecture with some different vendors those are providing cloud computing services. So thank you very much being with us for this session. Thank you.